What happens when you purify your body, your mind, your spirit? Something miraculous. The body begins to heal itself. Welcome to the Medicine Girl podcast, where each week we explore new ways to heal your body from the root, igniting your inner healer. You are a medicine. And now, here's your host, Robin Stebbins.
Well, I'm here. I am actually waiting for my brother.
Okay.
So you got kind of half of us.
Okay.
I'm
And you
just waiting for my brother. He should be about 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
okay, yeah, there's no hurry. I can wait, no problem.
Right, how are you? All right.
All right, and so you guys don't do video, I guess.
Well, we've done a lot of videos where we've like shown our faces and we kind of like waved to the camera, and we've on our channel we've kind of gotten to the point where we've run out of things to do, things to talk about, because we seem to have covered quite a lot over the years.
Right.
So we've kind of like we haven't been doing as many videos, and it's only been sort of turn of this year that we've kind of done shorter videos and just done audio.
I see. Okay.
And no video, because we kind of like it's a hassle to put the screen up. It's a hassle to set the webcam up.
You have to do all that. Okay.
Well, we use the mobile phone for the cam.
Okay.
So it's kind of like got
It's
to
a
do.
production.
Whereas it's easier just setting up the mic.
Right. Okay.
But I mean, because I think we seem to have quite similar interests in respect of chemistry, and
Yeah.
I think in some respects it's quite good to at some point. I mean, I don't know. You may want to do another talk where we do use video in the future. I don't know. All I'm saying is that it'd be good to share our desktop
Yeah.
and look at information, because it's the information that we rely on, that we've used, that we've looked at over the years,
Right.
where we sort of like think, well, this doesn't make sense, and and you rely on the information to gain an understanding of what was happening,
Right.
even during the Enlightenment period, where you have the early chemists.
Right.
So it's good to show that information so you can share it.
Well, and that's really, I think, what I'm trying to get after is not just the people that are directly interested in science, but for the general public, because I think once we get at the root of it, which I was starting to attack the periodic table of elements, which I'm now calling the periodic fable of elements.
Oh,
Because,
right. Yeah.
yeah, because I think what the root is that I've seen is they believe they are, or I don't think they believe it, but they're telling us that they're isolating, they're teasing out of, say, dolomite or limestone, the magnesium inside it by heating it to 1,000 degrees Celsius and by adding different acids and chemicals and creating these different reactions. They're saying that they're isolating an element. And I'm saying you're just creating a chemical soup. There's no difference between that and the way they make vitamins and supplements. There's no difference between that and the way they make prescription drugs. You're not teasing out an isolated element that's floating around on the planet. And so that's how they can trick us, by putting it next to things that we can see are base elements like gold, silver. I can go out in the wild and find them, but I can't go out and find magnesium. And the article that I did, the one that I sent you.
I read through that, and it's quite interesting how we're certainly on the same page. You're sort of like looking at, they're not really isolating this magnesium. It's kind of processing um, a mineral or a substance, and they're actually, it's a bit like baking a cake.
Right.
You know, if you're gonna bake a carrot cake, for example, you obviously need carrots, but you've got to have some other things like sponge
Yeah.
and other like butter and other and milk and other ingredients to make the product. I mean, you mentioned about the periodic fable of elements. I
Yeah.
mean, we call it the periodic table of products
Right. Well, that's the
because
reason for it,
because
right?
they're actually produced, or a lot of these metals, you know, like you mentioned, magnesium, it's just a result of
Right.
processing certain materials in a certain way for so long over certain temperatures and blah 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 blah.
Which is what alchemy is, right? It's telling us that you can create some novel substance out of other substances.
That's right, yeah, absolutely. And if you had some salt
Yeah.
and you heated it up and you added um, a certain mineral to it, then it may form into a different product than if you added a different mineral to that salt.
Right.
So you're more it's how you're processing and what you're adding into the mix all depends upon what the product you have at the very end.
And that's how they can, which the other article was a periodic sales of elements. So that's how they can sell you these cheap chemicals and say it's a natural occurring element
Yeah,
in
basically, yeah. Yeah. I
like
mean, it's
iodine.
like they have to say that our bodies contain magnesium, iron, and all these kind of elements because it encourages you to accept, well, it encourages you to eat them in your foods, but it also encourages the food manufacturers to put those minerals and metals in the foods.
Right, because that's where the money lies. You can sell, supplements and make a killing, sure, but the real money lies in if you get your drug of choice, which would be whatever vitamin or supplement that they have lobbied enough to get
Yeah,
onto
yeah, yeah.
a food fortification, and that's where the real money is because now it's in everything, and the consumer can't say no. Not that they would. They've been tricked into thinking that, oh, this makes it healthier.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite an interesting. I mean, we could have quite an interesting conversation about fortification of food, and for example, do you know why they add iron to foods?
I mean, other than that it makes it metallic and they add iron shards.
Yeah, but do you know why? Have you encountered a reason why they add iron to foods?
Well, the only reason that I had put, which was when I did the colloidal silver article, also is that it makes you more conductive.
Right. Now, from what I've understood, many years ago, because a lot of this has occurred over history. It's happened in the past, where let's say people's understanding of um, the world and what metals are and how the body works wasn't very um, well understood. So they had these people who were anemic. Yeah, so there was a lot of people very pale, and like all these doctors are thinking, "Oh, what can we do?" So they give them anything to see what can make them get a bit more color in their cheeks. And they discovered by giving them iron, metallic iron, it made them it eased the anemic condition. So what they did, well, this is my understanding, is that they put as a blanket policy and gave it to everybody,
Right.
not just people who were anemic, which is what they should do. They should say, well, if you've got anemia, then you need to have some iron.
But you
But
don't actually, you
but
don't need metal to repair iron. And if you look at the origin studies of how they're saying, well, if you had anemia, we gave you iron, you got better. They don't get better. They just change a lab value, and that's what they're after. They're after a blood lab value so they can say, hey, Pete, it's working. Look at your lab value has increased, but your health has not improved whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah. So you're looking at this whole kind of situation from a slightly more advanced angle than I am, because in some respects these people would have. It's a bit like cause and effect. You know, they give people metal in someone's diet, and then they say, "Oh, we've seen some progress, we've seen some improvement, so it must work." And in their understanding, that's good for them. So we'll do it this way.
Right, and that's how it got started with Merck
Yeah,
Pharmaceuticals inventing vitamin B1, saying that the white rice was poisoning people. Forget the whole, population of Asia for the last 1,000 years eating white rice, but
yeah,
the white rice is poison. So instead of eating brown rice, we're going to give you the solution, which is to take vitamin B1 made out of coal tar, ammonia, acetone, whatever else they've got in there.
yeah,
And then they get it approved as a natural fortification. So they're spraying it on cereals and pastas, and then they now have a gold mine. So now it's a gold rush, literally by these pharmaceutical giants to see what they can invent that's going to change a lab value, or they can make up a story
yeah,
like scurvy or beriberi and say, see, this is what's saving you, not the orange, not the apple, the chemical inside of it, hiding somewhere inside of it, which is
yeah,
their lie. And then it's off to the races because they can sell these cheap to make abundant chemicals. You can buy it by the ton for probably, what's in my bank account right now.
yeah.
And now they'll make 100x their initial investment.
Yeah, see, you live in a country where they can put whatever chemical they want in food.
Right.
They can put it in there, and it's only until there's some sort of backlash or some side effects that people raise would they then kind of think, oh, let's not add this particular stuff to food.
Right.
Whereas I live in a country where it's tested beforehand, so they can't, if it's found to be of danger to health, they won't add it to the food.
Hmm.
So we've kind of, I mean, we're, I suppose, living in the UK and living in well, and the being close to the EU, we do feel we have better protections when it comes to food and food health
For
than
for
you do.
yeah,
And I suppose I think for this conversation that we're going to have, because I think you're how can I call it? I mean, it's interesting how the conversation can be broken down into, you know, the things that we ingest as part of our diet, and whether or not, and the reasons for that, and whether or not A, do we need them?
right.
B, um, is it there to make money for the food producers, or is it another way? Because I know it's like in the war or the beginning of the Second World War, they synthesized ammonia um, because the Germans couldn't have access to what's that? They use it. They needed it for gunpowder to make ammunition, but
Oh,
so they had to synthesize ammonia, which was then a precursor to creating more fertilizer, and more fertilizer meant that they could grow more crops, which meant they could feed more people.
right.
So in some ways, without the inclusion of these chemicals that man has produced, we wouldn't have a lot more food on the shelves.
Right. Well,
So whether
and
or not that's a bad thing or not, could you look at it as a bad thing, or I mean, I suppose some people could look at it as a good thing. So I'm not trying to be, how can I call it, pro. pharmaceutical companies or pro food companies. I'm from my point of view, there are some kind of, well, man would love to grow the perfect banana and the perfect cabbage, you know,
Yeah.
so that he could sell, because that's what human beings like. So I don't know whether you want to focus on those or whether you just want to stick with the chemistry. My
Well,
brother's here now, so
we can just sort of see where it goes. I personally like to just point out evidence-based reality, and that's all I write about. I don't write about this study claimed that 87% of people got better by taking iron shards or iodine. I just look at since we're talking about gunpowder, you can look at iodine. Iodine was invented by using the surplus of gunpowder after the war. I can't remember which war now, but they had all this gunpowder, and so they looked to ways that they can sell it back to the public since they're not going to be using it in battle. And that was what they used for iodine and how they told you it was essential for the thyroid. But in essence, though, and this is what you're just mentioning,
yeah,
it harms the thyroid. It creates a disaster for the thyroid because if the thyroid is being poisoned with the iodine, it's not going to function properly. So it's either going to
yeah,
be hypo or hyper, which is a great, you know, secondary market for the functional medicine side because every single practitioner, homeopaths, naturopaths, chiropractors, you name it, are going to tell you your
mm,
thyroid needs and makes iodine, but iodine is made by burning kelp. This is how they first did it, adding the sulfuric acid. That little violet plume is what they call iodine. So they could make the same thing with gunpowder.
yeah,
Doesn't have to be kelp. We're not talking then about the same thing. We're just talking about mixing ashes and acids and telling you somehow that's essential for your body. But why I'm having this conversation with you is not
oh
just
right, yeah,
to geek out on chemistry, but to say those actually harm people. And I can show you how they harm people because this is what they're calling iodine does to the thyroid. And people are under this mistaken impression that if it's on the periodic table of elements, as a number somewhere, it's a
mm,
natural occurring element inside nature that we need. That's why, the piece I wrote on magnesium got 70,000 views, and people were outraged that I had dare take away their
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
right, because they need it for their leg cramps. But my intention is to say, well, maybe you should address the fact that you have leg cramps instead of taking a muscle sedative that takes away the symptoms, but you haven't done anything to correct the underlying root of the problem, which is where the actual medicine lies.
yeah.
Removing.
Me and my brother, we don't go, we haven't gone much into health
Yeah.
and chemistry and health. I think the only thing that we've really touched on is in relation to oxygen,
Yeah.
because we've looked at all uh, the chemists like Lavoisier and Priestley and all these people who discovered and played around with oxygen. And we've looked at how oxygen's used, not just in kind of submarines, but also we understand how they worked in hospital, how they use it in hospitals. And we've got an oxygen concentrator that someone with a breathing problem would use.
Yeah.
And we know that it's dangerous for you.
Yeah.
We've looked at is it an oxygen therapist?
Yeah. And
Respiratory therapists, and they actually can indicate that it's oxygen's a drug. And there's lots of information about oxygen to us that says that, well, in our view, it's people shouldn't really be using it,
yeah.
but
Well,
that's the only thing that we cover with health.
And that's, I mean, it's all related because you can't take out one piece of the ecosystem without affecting the entire system. And that's how I found out about you was through the oxygen concentrator video, because as a home health nurse and doing hospice, I've used oxygen concentrators, so-called,
Yeah.
and it never made sense to me. How is this little small suitcase producing oxygen?
Oh,
Or,
it can produce an uh, oxygen-like gas stream
yeah.
through its mechanical processing of air.
Hmm. Well,
So
maybe
it,
you can
it
describe,
can do it. Sorry.
maybe you can describe then what that, what it's producing, how that's a gas that somehow changes the results on a pulse oximeter, but is not necessarily something that's beneficial to somebody's health.
Well, I mean, a pulse oximeter, um, only determines the amount of, say, if you've got one that you got on the end of your finger
Yeah,
or on your earlobe, it'll only detect the amount of light, the infrared light that can pass through that part of the body. It's not testing for the amount of oxygen in the blood.
right,
So, I mean, you could say, well, it's giving me a reading of whatever, but I can say, but it's only determining how much light can pass through that part of the body. And to
right.
me, that's not detecting oxygen, is it? That's just determining how much infrared light can pass through that part of the body. And the device also has also been it's all been calibrated. It's been the software behind it that underpins it is based on the understanding that there's oxygen in the blood.
Right.
So I can't accept that a pulse oximeter determines oxygen levels in the blood.
I'm so glad that you said that because that is what I mean, I have found that the more you find out what they're using for testing, and I did the whole blood pressure article,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it has nothing to do with the way the body works. It's just something they can manipulate. So if you put the oxygen on the nasal cannula and you put the oxygen
Mm.
on,
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
as the oxygen afterwards it goes up. So you can say, see, it's working. But
Yeah, I mean, having breathing in oxygen, which is a produced gas through mechanical, or I mean, all chemical means. Um, if you breathe that in, the body will react to it
hmm
because it's something that the body isn't supposed to be breathing in. Um, one of the symptoms of breathing in oxygen is that your nose and your lips around your mouth will dry
hmm
because what in our we've done lots of things with oxygen and we've found that oxygen is has a drying effect. It
right.
dries things out. So when it comes in, because it's hygroscopic, isn't it? No, hydrophobic. It's hydrophobic. It doesn't like water. So it will push. It's a good, if you want to dry something out, you just put oxygen through it on it, and it will dry out in no time. Like sulfuric acid, like your chlorine stream. Yeah, it's like when they produce chlorine gas, they dry because it's they using speedballs. Because they produce it through electrolysis, or one way they produce chlorine gas is through the electrolysis of salt brine.
Right.
The
Yeah.
gas is wet. It's a
Uh-huh.
wet gas that comes off at the anode, and one way in which they dry that gas is they pass it through sulfuric acid because sulfuric acid contains a lot of oxygen, and it's that oxygen that dries out the chlorine
Right.
base, and so it can separate the moisture from the gas.
And so you're saying though that the air that I'm breathing in and breathing out right now does not contain oxygen that we're talking about that they're making inside these oxygen concentrators, or that I'm going to get in the containers, the gas containers that people use if their doctor says you have COPD and now I have to prescribe you oxygen.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't contain the air you're breathing in now does not contain oxygen in our understanding. Well, it can't. The air can't be proved to contain oxygen. Nobody can prove to you that there's oxygen in the air. How? What would somebody do to prove to you that there's oxygen in the air? They could get an oximeter.
Yeah.
You know, a digital oxygen sensor. Sorry, you know, I mean, we've got an oxygen sensor, and you've got to understand how the device works, because it's always, when you calibrate the device, it always goes to 20.9, and in our view, that it could just go to zero.
Right.
It's just the way it's calibrated to make people think there's 20.9 percent in the air when you switch it on.
Right. It's a sleight of hand, so they can
It
say
is, yeah.
they can.
Whereas it could just be set to zero. There's no oxygen in the air. And then when you actually if you produce oxygen, then you can actually get a true value.
Right.
If you put a sensor in a container filled with oxygen up to an oxygen cylinder and just turn the tap on, you'll see the reading rise, because it's actually detecting the oxygen. And
Right.
as you know, what other ways? Come on, you must think of another way they test for oxygen. You
They'll
know,
also see the
the
arterial
rusting.
blood gases with.
Yeah, well, they don't. Well, I mean, there's many ways in which they think oxygen is around, like rust, for example, oxidation. Oxidation. You know aluminium oxide that forms on. You know you have lead activation layers. Oh, I don't know whether you've got it out where you live, but you can have lead flashing on your roofs,
Right.
where
Yes.
the tiles meet, the tiles of a certain part of the roof meet a gable end, or
Yeah.
an extension or another part of the roof. And they use lead because it's malleable and it's good for roofing, for construction. Now, they say that the oxygen in the air will react with that lead, which will make the lead turn white. And it's called like a passivation layer.
Uh-huh.
And you can even buy some passivation oil, so you can treat the lead if you don't want it to go white. You know, if you want it nice silvery lead color, you can just put some passivation oil over it so it doesn't turn white. But in our understanding, the only reason why it goes white is because it's the moisture that's in the air reacts with the lead, and
Right.
it breaks down the lead. The moisture breaks down the lead, and the first part of breakdown is the formation of that passivation layer where it turns white.
Right.
And it's very similar with copper roofs.
Right.
You know, a lot of people will say, you know, the verdigris. You see, copper roofs are green, Liberty can turn green. Statue of Liberty.
Right.
The copper's turned green, and you think, well, that's it, the copper reacting with the oxygen in the air. But it's not. It's the moisture that's breaking down the copper, and in so doing, the copper forms this passivation layer that protects the copper from degrading even more.
Okay.
But it's not got nothing to do with oxygen.
Right.
Yeah. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Yeah, so our point is essentially is that it's very difficult to identify that it's the oxygen, it's any oxygen in the air that causes decomposition of any materials. Yeah, I mean our oxygen concentrator, if you switch it on, because it's got an air inlet, we'll draw the air in, and it's got a feed that goes to the patient, but it's also got an exhaust stream that comes out of the rear of the machine. That exhaust stream that comes out of the rear of the machine, well, it's supposed to be nitrogen, because it's supposed to separate the air into oxygen and nitrogen.
Right.
But we found that the exhaust stream is exactly the same as the air that goes to the patient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can relight a glowing
It
splint.
can relight a glowing splint. So it's not an oxygen concentrator. It is not an air separation unit. It's not separating the air. It's just processing the air to create an oxygen-like airstream.
Yeah.
So,
Which shows that there's no oxygen in the air.
Yeah.
There can't be.
and then you can't have anything flammable around these oxygen tanks or people that are on oxygen. They're not supposed to smoke around their oxygen. So
But
wouldn't
it's not flammable. Well, it's not flammable. It's comburant. It aids in combustion.
It'll just make
It's
the
not,
flame
it-
glow
it's not,
brighter.
it's not flammable. You can't light it and it'll just explode.
You can't burn oxygen.
It will just aid in combustion.
I see. So that would
and
be another way to tell, though, that if the surrounding air contains oxygen versus what you're producing in this oxygen concentrator as a gas.
Sorry, Robin.
Oh.
Can you just repeat that?
Sure. So that would be another way, though, that we could determine if the air that I'm breathing now naturally outside when I walk around is
Yeah.
different in properties than what they're producing in these oxygen concentrators that then would be, what do you say?
Well,
Not
all
flammable, but yeah,
it's doing, all it's doing is making you understand what air actually is and what oxygen
right.
actually is, because it's quite to say that oxygen is a constituent of the air is quite a clever concept,
Right.
because it's quite easy to fool people into thinking that oxygen is a constituent of the air.
Well,
But all you do is you process the air into because we all know the qualities of air. You can light a match and the match will burn. Well, let's say if we put a larger amount of that air and concentrate it into a much smaller space and then light the match in that kind of space, it will glow brighter.
right.
And that's all you're doing. That's all oxygen is. It's just concentrated air.
Dry
Air. That's all
Right.
it is.
So the moisture's just been removed.
And it's been concentrated.
Right.
Yeah.
It's got to be concentrated because you won't have the
oxygen properties.
You won't have the oxygen properties.
I see. And then how is it that it can be harmful to a person that is being told they need to be on oxygen therapy for whatever disease they have? They were a smoker, or they have COPD,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Well, right, okay, right. Because we've had conversations with people online about this, because it's quite a sensitive issue, you know, because we do know that lots of people are prescribed oxygen to help with breathing difficulty, respiratory problem.
Oxygen therapy, isn't it?
Our understanding is that when someone's lungs are kind of damaged,
Right.
there isn't much that the medical profession can actually do to help you, because the damage is done. You know, you can't just expect your lungs to get better overnight. You can't expect your lungs to have a new lease of life, especially with the process of aging as well, or you know, especially with the smoking over 40 years. You can't expect that your lungs will be as good as new when they were 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So man is limited in what he can do to help people with certain health problems. And in our understanding, they prescribe the oxygen because it's the next best thing that they can think of to give someone, because it's better to give them that than nothing at all. Sorry, we can't help you. You know, if you had a patient that goes to the doctor and says, "Doctor, I can't, I can't breathe very well,"
Right.
The doctor says, well, sorry, there isn't really much we can do for you. The patient's going to think, well, you're not very good. You're not very good, are you? We haven't got much faith in you, in your profession. So
Well, I
the,
mean,
the op-
I have to interject,
oh
right?
yeah, go on.
Because I have been inside the medical industrial complex for now 38 years, working as a
Yeah.
manager, working directly with patients, seeing what's prescribed. And it isn't that the doctor wants to truly help. They have exactly what they've been programmed to do, and it's usually to make the person slowly worse. And they know this because, if you two are working in a profession and you see no one gets better, not one person, everyone gets slightly worse over time, then
Hmm.
you know what you're doing. And so there are other ways that I have seen that are beneficial to people that have lung issues. You're right. One of them is you need to take time, but others are breathing exercises,
Hmm.
getting rid of the toxins that are entering the body. A lot of people,
Yeah.
even though they know they have lung issues, they don't seem to care that they're lighting scented candles inside their house. They don't seem to care that they're spritzing around air fresheners all over the place. So they're further damaging a damaged lung. And those are the things their MD could go over with them, but they don't. They just throw them on oxygen,
Yeah. Yeah.
give
Yeah.
them an inhaler, make them worse on purpose. I'm going to say that because I see it over and over again. And no, but
Yeah.
and anytime I interject something and I'll say, there's other natural ways we could look at this. What about the scented candles? Could you stop using those? It's about the same parts per billion as running a diesel generator in your house,
Hmm.
not to mention whatever those chemicals are to make the pumpkin spice smell. But I get in trouble for that because the doctor says, no, that doesn't have anything to do with it. This is all about
Yeah.
whatever the initial insult, or it's bad genetics, or it's heredity, because it has to be about something this person has no control over now. They have to be this innocent lamb to the wolf of the medical industrial complex to say,
Fine. Yeah.
make it better. I'll do whatever you say.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand your point of view,
Yeah,
uh, but because it sounds more like the lifestyle of the person, how they live their life in their home,
right,
the chemicals that they're exposed to, that they're inhaling.
right.
I mean, we've got what's that device that we've got that measures the parts per million?
Oh,
You can get devices,
particle detector.
particle
Yeah,
detectors.
particle detector.
Yeah,
You can get those in for your room to determine, how much kind of crap you've got actually floating around in your room. Um, but to me, is that to do with someone's lifestyle, or is that someone that when someone's going to the hospital's only dealing with that particular condition.
right,
They're not, are they really, is it their job
right.
to be dealing with, the fact that they use scented candles and blah,
Yes,
blah,
it
blah, blah.
is their job. Yes, it is their job because otherwise the person is not going to get better. If you don't address the root cause, the person is definitely not going to heal.
Hmm.
So medicine is mitigating symptoms. So you can say, look, you guys, it worked. Symptoms are gone, but you haven't addressed the underlying problem. So your person gets progressively worse throughout the years until, it's at
Yeah,
the end
yeah, yeah,
of life
yeah,
and they own the person and all of the things that they're supposedly keeping them alive with.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
no,
I fully understand your point, Robin. Because I'm kind of familiar with, even in this country, you go into a hospital and they like take ownership of you,
Yes.
and
they do what they
they
think's
do
best
what they think is best
for
for
you.
you.
They've got agendas,
Um,
they've got money, backers, they do
yeah,
set procedures. So obviously, if you come up with an alternative procedure, they don't like it. Obviously, they'd
yeah,
prefer you to stick with what they advise.
Right.
But so we can understand, the hospital only giving a set like oxygen. Oh, let's give them oxygen. Let's give them oxygen.
Right.
because
It's the
they've also got that oxygen in the air
right.
myth that they
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
perpetuate. So that's one of the reasons why they've got to give these people that kind of treatment, because it's their science. It's, you know,
Exactly. The
they
cult of
can't just
science.
not do it and say, okay, you got a good point, Robin, about the scented candles or whatever. How about opening up a window? You have get some
Yeah.
fresh air in. You know,
Right.
people could be doing this, they could be advised to do this, but they're not, simply because the
And
science
and
Right.
also
and the society
yeah,
we're living in, you know.
and also there are financial constraints because a lot of people in the past they were just recommended to go and breathe in the mountain air for a month or whatever if you've got a breathing problem. Whereas nowadays, a lot of people can't afford to, go to the Swiss Alps or, go to a mount wherever you are,
Yeah.
a mountainous region or by the sea or whatever.
Right.
So they give them this oxygen concentrator.
But it's like years ago when, if you must have heard of Florence Nightingale.
Of course.
Of course, I think she was a great proponent of opening the windows, come on, fresh air for everybody in the wards. Whereas,
Sunlight, fresh
you
air,
know,
good
fresh air,
nutrition.
Yeah.
absolutely. Whereas now you can't even open the window.
But
Why?
you,
Get
but you
lots of
know,
fresh air in, you know. Everyone will start moaning, oh, it's cold. And the nurses will say, what on earth are you doing? Close the window.
right. Well,
You're bringing disease and
Oh,
but
right.
contamination.
Yeah.
these doctors, though, they could do both. They could easily send you home on your oxygen to say, let's start you out at 2 liters, 1.5 liters, just to help get over this crisis of you not being able to breathe. But we slowly want to wean you off of it and do all of these other things. Get some fresh air in your house, go outside in the sunlight, get rid of the all of the
Oh,
toxins. The automobiles in the summer are really toxic. So the person, when they're in that lung crisis, there's a lot of things that they could do in addition. It wouldn't take the MD any time to have a little piece of paper printed up to, like, here's some potential toxins for your lungs, and they have the oxygen to go home with. So it's two birds with one stone. You actually could start the person on a trajectory of healing, which is what I'm talking about more, is that, yeah, it's great to understand science, the cult of science, I call it, because they can prove that, okay, there's oxygen in the air. What we're doing is we're making you oxygen, getting rid of all the other stuff that's in the air. So all you have is pure oxygen, and that's going to get you better. And they believe that, and it never gets the person better. In fact, it usually degrades their lungs over time.
Yeah,
yeah,
because
but they've got that they get paid. So if they go against the grain and they start advising alternative
Yes.
treatments or whatever, and their bosses get wind of it, they'll get the boot.
yeah,
So
it's
you know,
Insurance companies will drop it.
it's our understanding that the body, it's not a question of oxygen in the blood or the body needs oxygen. It's more of a question that the body needs water, needs moisture.
Right.
And the lungs, we watched a video of this guy dissecting some pig's lungs, which are very similar to human lungs. And when he kind of shows them on the video, you can see they're very moist, they're wet,
Yeah.
which means that they're kind of like exposed to a lot of moisture, a lot of water. So you kind of think to yourself, now is it the purpose of the lungs to actually, when you breathe in, you're breathing in the air and moisture that's in the air, and then it's the lungs' job to um, to obtain that moisture, capture that moisture, and feed it into the body so that it can pressurize the body.
Right.
So we've always looked at it as though like if you go into a steam room is much better for you if you've got a breathing problem than breathing oxygen.
in
Right.
our view,
In our view,
in
that's
our
our
opinion,
view.
you know. We're not saying we're right or wrong here. We're just saying that.
No, I've seen it. So for
I agree.
the time I work in hospice, and when patients, they don't have to take any more of the prescribed medications from the medical system. And so people that have breathing issues, what I have recommended is putting a couple leaves of mullein in, or a leaf of eucalyptus in some boiling distilled water or actual natural spring water, and using the steam, and every single
Yeah,
time I see them improve.
yeah,
And what happens though is, in this country, if somebody has a cough, everyone around them will say, you need to go to see the doctor. And
right.
they've been smoking marijuana, or they're smoking cigarettes, or they're vaping, they have a buildup in their lungs. And this is trying to escape with this mucus. So they need to cough it out. But what we do here is we stop the cough with, whatever, cough suppressant, that either over the counter or prescription, which stops the coughing, which then creates that buildup over time. So if it was just a cough, trying to get rid of some of the buildup carcinogens from the marijuana or the cigarettes, it's now staying in there year after year after year, until now you have an issue where those little alveoli sacs are not exchanging the necessary, well, you're saying it's moisture.
That's moisture, yeah, in our view, yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you've created basically a seal in these sacs, so you can't
Yeah.
exchange anything anymore.
I mean, smoking is no different in our, well, in my opinion, smoking is no different to breathing in oxygen, because
Oh, wow.
the smoke dries out the lungs.
Wow.
Is it? Would you agree with that?
Well,
That smoking is no different than breathing in oxygen,
oh, I mean,
because the smoke's going to dry out the lungs.
yeah, I can imagine what a 40, 50 a day smoker's lungs would be like after about 30,
Brittle.
40 years. Very
Brittle.
broke. If I had the lung in my hand, it would just crumble.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just dried out.
It's dried
dried
out.
out.
But it should be moist,
Which is, so people can get a visual. I had a 96-year-old hospice patient that had smoked about a pack and a half to 2 packs a day since she was 10 years old, 96 now. And when she
Wow.
snatched her finger, the whole finger turned black and crumbled up until it came off, because she,
Wow,
Yeah.
right? So she had nothing exchanging, no moisture from all the cigarette smoking.
Well, I've got to say she did well for 96. Or up for
It's
96.
amazing.
Wow.
The human body is amazing when, we don't poison it. And then even when you do, it's incredibly resilient.
Yeah, I mean, we often think that, because we watch some old black and white movies and this kind of stuff, and we read up about the actors, and then you begin to see how many of these actors have lived well into their 90s, and you tend to think, well, it is quite easy to live a long life.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people
I think
do
it is easy.
Yeah, I think it's. I think longevity is just it's just looking after yourself.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah, and doing the right thing.
Doing the right things. That's all it is.
Doing the right things, and even when you don't do the right things and you smoke a pack and a half or 2 packs a day, your body can still somehow some way keep up, if I think you're not in constant fear and anger.
Thank you for joining us for another incredible episode of the Medicine Girl podcast, where our mission is to ignite the power within so you can hear your divine wisdom and follow your soul's true north. Fear is loud, peace is quiet. Listen to the softest voice. We are all walking each other home.